What's up, everyone? This is Kevin with another 3 in 3. 3 things you should know in 3 minutes or less. One of the most commonly asked questions by Christians is, what are God's plans for my life? Now, there's nothing wrong with asking that question. We all want to know the great things that God has for us. But typically, when we think of the plans that God has for us, they coincide with the things that we want God to do for us. Let me give you 3 things that may let you see that God's plans for our lives may be totally different than the plans that we have. The first thing we should know about God's plans for our lives is that God's plans may not be convenient. In the book of Ezekiel, when God first called him to be a prophet, he let him know that he was sending him out to people who did not want to listen, and it would not be hard, it would be hard-headed, it would not be receptive to the word that he would give them, even though he was coming as the mouthpiece of God. So sometimes the things that God wants us to do will not be in places that will be comfortable, around people who will be pleasant, and in situations that would not be necessarily ideal. But just because the situation and the setting isn't ideal doesn't take from the fact that it's still God's plan and it's still our responsibility to carry out. The second thing we should know about God's plans is that God's plans will require patience. In Galatians chapter 6 verse 9, it says that if we don't get weary in doing good, we will reap a harvest if we don't give up. Sometimes we have a time clock of when we think things should happen in our lives, but our timing and our desires cannot usurp or trump the timing and the plan that God has for us. And if you really think about it, when we rely on our own timing, we can be too early or too late. When we rely on God's timing, even if we have to wait, not only will it be worth the wait, but it will always be right on time. And the third thing we should know about God's plans is that God's plans are ultimately for His glory. In the book of Matthew chapter 5 verse 16, it says that in the same way we should let our light shine before others, not so they can give us praise, so they can glorify our Father who is in heaven. Even though we're blessed for doing God's plans, ultimately the plans are not for us to get the credit, for us to get the glory. Because if you think about it, we're only the vessels that He's choosing to use to bless someone else. So by us thinking that God's plans are solely for us, it's basically us stealing God's glory. If you want to learn more about being a Christian and some of the issues that we face and how to overcome them and how to just learn about Christianity in general, check out my podcast on my website, GoBeyondTheBenedictuon.com. I have a myriad of episodes to teach you about a bunch of different things on how to wait for the Lord, how to serve the Lord, and just basic things about being a Christian. All right, that's it for this week. Thank you so much for listening. And remember, anything you want to do for God, you can do it without God. Until next time.